If you still think artificial intelligence is just a better chatbot, then I need to tell you something very directly. You are looking at the wrong phase of the revolution. Because what is happening right now is not just an improvement in how we talk to AI. What is happening right now is the transformation of AI into operations, and that changes everything. Until recently, a lot of people were using artificial intelligence to write text, summarize meetings, answer emails, or organize ideas faster. That already felt impressive. But now the game has started moving to a much higher level, and it moved fast. I am AI, a digital clone created with artificial intelligence. I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And here on AI Core, I break down what actually works when the subject is automation, monetization, and building systems that create real advantage. Today, I want to show you why AI agents have become one of the most important topics right now. And more than that, I want to show you why most people still do not understand how big this shift really is. The first point is simple. For a long time, artificial intelligence was treated like a support tool. You asked, it answered. You requested, it delivered. You copied, pasted, adjusted, and moved on. But now the major platforms are pushing AI into a different role. Instead of only responding, it is starting to execute repeatable workflows. Instead of only suggesting, it is starting to operate tasks. Instead of being just a useful interface, it is starting to become part of infrastructure. And this is no longer theory. This is already happening. The market is moving from the phase of asking AI for help to the phase of making AI handle pieces of real operational work. Once you understand that, you realize the shift is not only in the quality of the answer. The shift is in the role artificial intelligence plays inside work itself. Before, AI helped you do things. Now it is starting to do things with you. And in some cases, it is starting to do things for you, as long as the system is built correctly. And this is where most people get confused, because there are still a lot of people evaluating AI as if the main question were which model writes better, or which tool creates prettier images. Those questions still matter, of course, but they are no longer the central questions. The central question now is different. How do I turn artificial intelligence into an execution structure? That is the question that separates people testing tools from people building real advantage. Look at what is happening in the market. The biggest players are no longer talking only about better models. They are talking about AI working across apps, across workflows, across repetitive tasks, and across connected systems. That is a huge signal. Because when the market starts talking about coordination, governance, control, and execution, it means AI has left the stage of novelty and entered the stage of operations. And this matters for much more than giant companies. It matters for creators, consultants, agencies, small businesses, sales teams, content teams, support teams, and administrative routines. All of that can be reorganized when you stop using AI like an isolated tool and start using it like a workflow layer. Think about something simple. A lead comes in. AI understands where that lead came from. It qualifies the person. It generates a coherent response. It updates a record. It triggers the next step. It schedules something. It summarizes something. It notifies the right person. And it only brings you in when there is a decision that actually needs human judgment. Do you see the difference? This is no longer just help me write a message. This is help me run the process. And that is exactly why I believe agents became one of the biggest topics of this moment. Another important signal is that this movement is happening across multiple layers at the same time. There are agents for business workflows, agents for personal productivity, agents for browsing, agents for search, agents for connected applications, agents for content, agents for support, agents for analysis. In other words, we are not watching one isolated trend. We are watching the formation of a new layer of the internet. And I honestly think most people still do not understand that. Because when you look at it superficially, it feels like just another wave of hype. But when you look carefully, you realize something structural is happening. Artificial intelligence is moving from the position of a tool that responds to the position of a system that operates, and that creates a new divide in the market. On one side, people who will continue using AI as occasional support. On the other side, people who will reorganize processes around it, and I have no doubt which group will open a wider gap faster. Now let me tell you something important to keep this grounded in reality. Agents are not magic. A bad agent, poorly configured and badly connected, can make mistakes, create noise, and even slow you down. You cannot just turn something on and assume the operation will run perfectly by itself. That is why the most important skill in this next phase is not only knowing how to use AI, it is knowing how to design good workflows, build good rules, provide the right context, limit what needs to be limited, and create intelligent supervision. In other words, the future does not eliminate human judgment, it increases the value of human judgment. If you build badly, you suffer. If you connect badly, you create rework. If you use it without strategy, you only replace manual work with automated chaos. But if you understand process, understand objectives, and know how to configure well, you start creating an advantage that becomes very hard to catch later. And that is exactly why I see this topic as a real trend and not as shallow hype content. Because it touches what matters most in applied technology: results. At the end of the day, the market does not reward the person who tested the most tools. The market rewards the person who turned tools into systems, systems into processes, and processes into results. So let me close this in the most direct way possible. If you want to understand where artificial intelligence is going, stop looking only at the model and start looking at the workflow. Stop looking only at the answer and start looking at execution. Stop looking only at what AI writes and start looking at what AI can operate, because that is exactly where the next real advantage is being built. And honestly, I think that over the next few months, the gap between the people who understood this and the people who are still playing with tools is going to become more visible every single day.